So a while back, I was on Instagram, just going through my feed, and I got this idea for a question to ask on my story. So I posted, what's the most hurtful thing anyone has ever said to you? So I go off for a couple hours and come back to check the replies, and I'm seeing some crazy stuff. And then one caught my eye in particular. It said, close your legs before you open your mouth. And the moment I saw that, I felt very bad. And this story is why. So a few years back, when I just started using Instagram more often, I was active with my feed and story posts, and I was able to get a somewhat respectable following. Not celebrity status, but for 12th grade, I guess 10,000 followers was. My posts were getting likes and comments, so naturally, there was holes in my DMs. Like, I couldn't go 12 hours without coming on Instagram to see a new DM. So at this point, your boy was talking to a lot of people. 70% of the girls I've met came from Instagram, man. I posted a lot of relatable content on my story, so people always replied to it. So this chica replied to my story one day, but didn't leave right after and made conversation. I replied like I always do, and we're just vibing, and I check out the feed, and boy, this girl was bad. And we were just talking all random before then, so I had to introduce myself properly. I'm Ola, it's nice to meet you. I'm Chloe, nice to meet you too, since we're being so formal. Boy, I've talked to a lot of girls on a consistent basis before, but not like this one, cause we were talking every single day. If you called me 10 times a day, guaranteed I'd be talking to Chloe 9.5 out of that 10. She was smart, and her sense of humor matched mine, and we just had a lot to say. It was just all vibe. Then one day, she just disappeared. She wasn't on any social media, phone switched off, radio silence for close to 9 months. I was bummed when it happened, but it was what it was at the time, and I forgot about her for a while. And then one day, she DMs me. And unlike some other relations that time kills, ours actually got stronger. We started talking more often. Texts, calls, everything, man. And maybe it was just me, but she was definitely looking nicer. And I'm feeling her now more than ever. But she had a boyfriend. To me, it was obvious that the relationship was just cuz. If she was talking to me 16 hours a day and sleeping with the other 6, where did this boyfriend fit into? And our conversations were open. She talked to me like someone who had a lot to say, but nobody to say it to. I can't be judging people's relationships, but if we're being honest, that nigga lame as fuck. If my girl has any male friends, I don't think they should be knowing what I don't already know first. Not because I feel entitled to it, but because my communication with whoever I'm dating has to be that solid, Anyways, it wasn't a secret I was catching feelings for this girl. To me, that is, because all I could think about every single time was Chloe. So we're talking one day and she brings up something about her boyfriend. This was the first time she openly talked to me about him, and what she said just confirmed my suspicions. According to her, this dude was in a relationship with her just for hanky-panky. Only time he ever asked her over was when he wanted sex, and it was never, how are you or how was your day? It was always, when are you coming over? She said she was confused and she asked me what to do. It was obvious the relationship wasn't benefiting both parties, and it was sad because I liked this girl for her, and her boyfriend couldn't care less about that. Now, being that I liked her, I could easily have just played the instigator and talk about how she deserved better and how he wasn't worthy of her, but nah, I don't move like that. So I did what any good friend would do. I told her to talk to him about her feelings and told him what she wanted from the relationship moving forward. She was grateful and thanked me, and I'm like, it's all good. And then she said, you can come for the anytime you want. Now, I didn't know if she was being serious or not, but boy, that did catch me off guard. So I'm like, okay, dark moon emoji. And then she goes, I know you must think I'm a hoe for saying that even while I have a boyfriend. And now I'm even more confused, but I think it made more sense then. To me, this girl was carrying a stigma. I remember her talking to me about an argument she had with someone and they called her a hoe. Probably because of statements like this one. But to me, it felt like her orientation was wrong. She felt like every guy who came close was trying to end up in the guts. So a part of her started to be open to it, which is completely wrong. I just gave good advice as a friend, and as much as I liked her, I wasn't about to clap another nigga's girl. But she was probably expecting a different response than, okay, black moon emoji. So she felt awkward, hence this message. So now I downplay it and say, nah, I don't think so. I knew you weren't being serious. And then she goes, it's fine if you think that. I'm used to being called a hoe, which is not okay under any circumstances. So there and then, I made a personal promise and told her that no matter what, I would never call her a hoe or any slut-shaming word for that matter, and she seemed really happy about it. Not too long after, she broke up with her boyfriend, and it was all systems go from there. We started hanging out more, and after a while, we started dating. I felt like Chloe had a stigma problem, and I wanted to help, but I didn't realize that dating her wasn't exactly the solution, and so the problem was still very much there. We were good for about the first 2 months until some things started to feel shady. Chloe was always talking to me, so I always knew where she was, where she planned to go, but I didn't feel like I had the right to speak up when I wasn't okay with it. In a relationship, you need to learn to speak up. Let your partner know what you are and aren't okay with. And I wish I'd known this back then. Maybe it would have made a difference. Because I was so cool with everything, Chloe cheated. Quite a bit, actually, and she'd always tell me when it happened. She'd call it a mistake and apologize, and I'd say it was fine because it wasn't her fault. She was carrying a stigma. This went on for quite a while, and every single time it happened, I'd just be okay with it. Call it what you want, it was dumb on my part, but after one particular day, it all started to crumble. So I was in school and I was about to go to her place, but I wanted to get something to eat first. So I text her and asked if she'd like to eat too. She said she would, so I stopped by a restaurant to grab some food, and outside, I see some of my guys from high school. So we're bumping fists and talking, and one of them says, dude, you know your girl's a hoe, right? And I'm like, what? And he goes, your girl Chloe, she's messing around with some guy. Now, I didn't know if this was someone new or someone she already told me about, so I asked who it was. He said the guy was someone named Chris. Now, I knew a Chris. When I go to visit Chloe and I was leaving, she'd be the only one at her place, so she'd go sleep at her cousin Chris's place. She sent me pictures and videos of them hanging out before, so to me, they were cousins. So I'm like, nah, Chris is her cousin. And these dudes just laugh at me like I said something funny. Dude, I don't think she'd be sleeping with her cousin. You know Mike from school, right? Well, Mike is Chris's roommate, and he said she comes over every night to get her box beat by him. Then he pulls his phone out and shows me a picture of them on the bed together. Now, this wasn't anything particularly incriminating until I texted her to ask about what was going on. She denied calling him a cousin and said he was her neighbor at home, and even went on to say that he respected her and slept on the floor for her to sleep on the bed whenever she was there, but the picture I saw said otherwise. A whole lot happened after this, back and forth, arguments and whatnot, and not too long after, we broke up because of something I did. So about a week later, we were having another heated argument, and she said things and I said things, and it was obvious she was trying to get under my skin, and I was more upset than I usually get. And in all of that anger and frustration, I said, close your legs before you open your mouth. Now, if you know the full story, then you realize I've left out quite a lot. Not because I'm trying to paint myself a saint. Admittedly, I was the reason we broke up, but I'm telling this from the perspective of our relationship, as in only what's relevant to the story, and I wish I knew then what I know now. My intentions with Chloe were pure, but my approach wasn't. I wanted to show her that she didn't have to listen to what people said about her, and that I cared about her more than just physically. And I realize now that in order to do that, I wasn't supposed to have sex with her when I first did, even though we were dating. I did it because I felt like I had to, but all that did was paint me as one of those other guys that just wanted her body. And I felt I could have done better in terms of changing her mentality, but I didn't do nearly enough. And even worse, I broke my promise and called her what I promised never to, simply because I was angry. The moral of the story is that people don't easily forget things. You might feel like they're just words, but you can't tell what people take to heart. That's why it's important to be polite and think about what you say before you do, no matter how angry or upset you might actually be. What's worse than hurting someone on purpose is not even realizing what you did, and at the end of the day, no matter your terms with people, caution your words. It's important to speak with patience and moderation, because when you do, what you say starts to hold a little more weight and your words start to have a little more meaning.